Welcome to the Upside Podcast, powered by Upside Global and hosted by Julian Blinn, founder and CEO of Upside Global. The Upside Podcast is listened to weekly by over 6,000 sports and tech executives from all sports leagues and teams in the United States and around the world. Julian has been developing technologies for professional sports teams for over 10 years and has worked for major tech companies along with sports tech startups. In each episode, Julian interviews global leaders in sports to share knowledge on emerging technology in the sports industry and how these technologies can help improve the performance of individuals and organizations, both on and off the playing field. And now here's your host, Julian Blinn.
So today we have the honor of interviewing Ciara Burgi, the Director of Health and Performance at the Las Vegas Aces, a top WNBA team. So Ciara, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. So, hey, I'm going to jump right into the question. So can you start by telling us a bit about your journey and what inspired you to pursue a career in sports performance and how you ended up leading performance for the Las Vegas Aces?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my career has kind of just been, a succession of opportunities that I've decided to say yes to. First, I was most interested in strength and conditioning, but then I was just not sure back in that day as a female what my career longevity looked like in that field. And so I was like, okay, how can I diversify and bring more to the table? So elected to go to physical therapy school, which I went to at Duke University. After that, I worked in outpatient physical therapy for 3 years, did a residency, and it was in a sports clinic. And then I just kind of got curious about what higher level sport was like, but it was never my dream or goal to work in college or professional sport. I knew that Duke University had a Division I athletics fellowship. And so having gone to PT school there, I was like, I'll apply for it. And if I get an interview, I can at least go check out the environment and see if that feels like it would be a good fit for me. Yeah. Luckily, I got an interview, got to check out the environment, and was just really, really attracted to the collaborative nature of higher level sport where there's a lot more people to work with. Again, in outpatient, it's you and the doctor and the patient. Yeah. And in higher level sport, there's a dietitian, there's a mental health person, there's an athletic trainer, there's a physical therapist, there's a primary care physician, there's an orthopedic surgeon, there's coaches. So there's so many more people to problem solve with. And so got really, really attracted to that environment. Did the fellowship at Duke and stayed there for 3.5 years total, working in college athletics. And then the Houston Texans NFL team came calling, and I, again, wasn't super attracted to working in professional sport, but it was like, all right, maybe this is the next challenge, is to do this at a different perceived level, I guess. So made my way to the Houston Texans, and I was there for about a little over 3 years. Yeah. And then Las Vegas Aces kind of came calling as well, and I hadn't been in a formal leadership role before. I hadn't had the quote unquote director title. And I think we've all worked in different environments under different leadership structures and always take away the good things and take away the bad things and wonder how you would do it if you could do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And so that curiosity kind of got to me, and it's like, all right, I wonder, one, if I can do this, and if I can do this in the way that I've wanted to do it, and take the good parts and take the bad parts from leadership that I've been around, and try to see if I could create a structure and a culture within an organization that already has a great structure and culture and history, and see if I could do it there. And so that's what kind of led me to the Las Vegas Aces. And I've been here for, we're partway through my second season with them.
That's great. And by the way, I visited Duke University. I know Drew Lucas, head of sports science, and Megan. Yeah. All you see is excellence everywhere, right?
I'm highly biased. I know people hate Duke people, and I think it's the greatest place in the nation, but I understand why we're hated, because we're very biased people, but I love it there. Yeah, my heart is there for sure.
I went to see a basketball game. My son was like, you got to see Cooper Flag. I'm like, okay, what's the deal? And I got there, it's hard to win over there. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. So
it's a great environment. Yeah.
Like a religion, right?
Yeah, so, for sure.
So anyway, I loved it. I think it was fun. So
we're on the same boat. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me a bit more about your role as the Director of Health and Performance? What does it look like on a daily basis, and how does it evolve across different phases of the season? Because obviously you got the preseason, you got in-season, you got the playoffs. So how does it change over time?
Yeah, I think everything's been each season has been a little bit different since I arrived. I arrived along with there's 4 of us on the team, a strength coach, a lead physical therapist, a lead athletic trainer, and then myself. And I have, yes, a director role, but also very much a clinical hands-on role with day-to-day operations as well. And when we first arrived, me and the other 2 medical counterparts first arrived in April of last year. That was 3 weeks before season started. And so to be perfectly honest, we just jumped in and survived through the first season and tried to figure out how to make it go. And so it was like all hands on deck, fill a need wherever it is. And no one was really on the right seat on the bus last season, but we were just trying to get to the destination. And then this off season was a lot about building what pieces of the pre-existing team fit our current team, meaning like the extended team. I don't mean the athletes. And what pieces didn't fit our team, and we needed to find new pieces. And so really we got to like take the off season and find the right pieces for our team and build the culture and build what we wanted to build. Because really the last season was just about making it through and surviving. And then this season, we've been able to kind of start to head the bus in the direction that we want to head as a collective staff, because we had the off season to build a little bit and kind of knew the environment. But then there's been new people that we've brought on board. And so it's obviously onboarding new people to the culture and the systems and the processes and the athletes. And so that's brought its own set of challenges. And so this off season will be kind of fine tuning and refining that. So each season, I guess, because of when I started and when most of my teammates started, it was survival, and then it was adjustment, and then it was a little bit more calculated survival in season, and then we'll just keep fine tuning each off season until it's a well-oiled machine.
And do you feel like the off season doesn't feel like an off season for you guys? Like it's so busy, or what?
Last season did not feel like an off season because we had so much fine tuning to do, and then also we had, obviously some of our women are in town in the off season, but many are still trying to make more money elsewhere, and so are playing in other leagues. They're playing overseas. They're playing in the Unrivaled League in Miami. They're playing in Athletes Unlimited in Nashville. And so sometimes we have athletes at home, but then we have our athletes spread out elsewhere as well. And so it's keeping tabs on them. And then one of our staff members went to Unrivaled and worked on staff there, again, to keep tabs on our athletes, frankly. And so we were even down a person in the off season. So last off season was not very off. Maybe it's a false hope, but my hope is that this off season will have a little bit more time to breathe.
Well, I mean, talking about breathing, I was in Las Vegas in July. You couldn't breathe.
It is a sauna. It is an outdoor sauna. Yes.
Right. But you live in Houston, so you're kind of used to the heat, right? I mean,
different. Yes. A different sort of outdoor sauna.
Now, how do you balance strength and conditioning and recovery and rehabilitation for players in such a physically, demanding league, right?
Yeah, I think that's probably the one thing I was most shocked by, and maybe not, I don't want to say not prepared for, but most surprised by moving from the NFL to here. NFL is super predictable. It is an extraordinarily physical sport, right? But they, for the most part, play every Sunday. Every Monday's the same. Every Tuesday's the same. Every Wednesday's the same. And you have like a 7-day stress recovery cycle that's pretty predictable in the NFL. Here, again, we just got off of a streak of 8 games in 15 days in 5 different cities. And we're off of another streak of 18 games in 36 days. And so literally you're either stressed or recovered every other day for the most part. And so the density and intensity of our schedule is no doubt the largest challenge of the environment. And so a lot of my first year was like learning about that and figuring out how to fit the scientific principles that we all know into an environment where it's really tough to apply them. You can't apply them in perfection, right? So as a general, we try to keep our highs high and our lows low. So game days are high days. Our high minute players might do a little lift depending where we are in the schedule after the game, just to keep the highs high. And then after the game. Yep. And then not everybody does it. It kind of depends on the player. But again, from a physiological standpoint, that's what we feel like as a staff makes the most sense. If we're going to get a lift in for our high minute players, is to get it in on that high day, which is a game day, just post game. Just kind of get whatever's left in the tank. But I'm not saying it happens every game for every player. And then low minute players have a little bit of a different schedule as well. And so we just kind of have to take that into account. But luckily there's only 11 women on our roster. And so the expectation should be individualization. And that's exactly what has to happen in order for them to always be ready to go. Because if somebody, knock on wood, gets hurt, then a low minute player could very suddenly become a high minute player. And it's our job to make sure that they're prepared. And so it's really looking at each individual and what is the most optimal stress recovery cycle, given our 7 or 10 or 12-day stretch, however we want to look at a little microcycle like that. We kind of just split the schedule up into microcycles and figure out what stress recovery makes sense for each of the 11 individuals. But it is not an easy task.
I mean, it sounded like when you were actually surprised, right? Coming from the NFL, WNBA,
Sure.
It's pretty intense, right?
For sure. And even as an individual who does not play a sport, but just lives the day-to-day of the sport, like I was also unprepared for the travel and the exhaustion of all of that. So I think about that all the time. Like, how do I feel with living this schedule as a non-sport player, let alone our women who are playing all the time? So
I think to me, it's not like quite physical too. Like you see, athletes getting scratches, and I mean, they're not holding back.
Yeah, I think that surprised me a lot. Like, of course, you watch something on TV, but like when you're down there on court and see it happening right in front of you, like the physicality of the women's game is a lot more than I perceived it was as somebody that watched on TV. Like it is a very physical game.
Yeah, there's actually a great documentary about one of the all-time great WNBA player for the Phoenix. I think I forgot, I'm linking her name, but
Diana Taurasi, probably.
Yeah, look, they were really going after her because
sure.
and that she was physical too.
Very.
She was getting exhausted. I mean, getting banged up by everybody. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
Hey, the next question is, the Aces, right? They're known for their success and culture, and you got a great coach, right? She came from the Spurs, great culture with the Spurs, and I'm sure she kind of brought some of that in. But how does your department contribute to sustaining that level of excellence, right? Because every year people expect you guys to win every single year. So how do you maintain that culture of excellence?
Yeah, I mean, I think if with any of us, like if someone has really high expectations for us, we always want to work really hard to rise to the occasion, right? And so our president, Nikki Fargas, has really championship expectations for the organization. Becky Hammond, our head coach, is a champion. We have 4 potential future Hall of Famers on our roster as players. So like we're around excellence every single day. And like you can't help but demand that you rise to the occasion and set everybody around the organization up for success, because that's just the culture of the organization. Like, so yeah, we have great examples at every level at the organization. And so we're just trying to give them the resources that they need within our department to be successful. And that's really, really our job. Like, do you have everything you need? Do the athletes feel like they have everything they need to perform at their best? And so again, being around excellence makes you want to be nothing but excellent. And so it's just sort of, there's nothing of mediocrity about the organization. Like that's just not tolerated. Like we were 500 at one point this season, and you would think that we were like 0-30, right? Like it's just not, it's not who we are. And so that's just like, you have to rise the occasion of the people that are around you, and the bar is set. So, and in like a really healthy way. It's not like win at all costs, win or bust. Like it's not like anything malicious. It's just like, it's the culture. It's who we are. It's a championship organization, and that's just the expectation.
It's like working, playing for the Brazil national team or the Real Madrid. I mean,
right.
People expect you guys to win every single time. Oh my God, that's the game. End of the world. Like, what's going on? And it's hard, right? When you won so many times, it's hard to just, sometimes you hear coaches like, we're not supposed to win every single game.
Yep.
Right. So,
yeah. And I think that when we were not having success earlier this year, like the girls didn't necessarily know how to lose very well because they hadn't. And now we understand that like it's all a part of a building process. No one season is going to look the same. And so it's actually been a really, really powerful experience just to watch them go through the struggles of this season, because like the belief never wavered in the locker room ever. No one ever got negative. No one ever got down. It was just like, we have to learn something in order to move on to the next level. And so, that's just the expectation, which is,
I was talking to, on that, I was talking to Derek Millender, who was the head strength coach for the Cavs. And I asked him the question, actually asked him to ask the question, but when you have some bad losing streak, and you need to have those tough conversations with people. And
Yep.
you know, I asked him, I said, when you have bad losing streak, what do you see? And he said, well, sometimes people start drinking. I'm just giving an example, right?
Yep.
But you have to have this conversation. Hey, how you doing today? You know, hey, let me get you a latte today. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it's a small conversation, but you need, you know, when it gets tough, you have to be able to talk to people and you know,
Sure.
work together, right?
Yep, for sure. For sure.
My next question is about, and we kind of talked about that, but the WNBA season is long and demanding, but with travel and condensed schedule. So what are the biggest challenges in maintaining player health performance across the year, right? Because it's tough, right? When you have to travel and you're on the road and, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like the schedule, the density and intensity of the schedule in the WNBA and NBA is nothing to take for granted. And so it's really just like the optimal things that you learn in school or learn in practice about performance. Like you can't create an optimal environment in this environment because the schedule is not optimal. Like, right, we know how long it takes for certain hormones or certain chemicals to return to baseline. And when you play every 48 hours, nothing is returning to baseline. When you play a back-to-back, nothing is returning to baseline. So, right, like it's taking, like, you can't have the rigidity and the black and white of what you learned in school or what you scientifically know is best. Like you just have to do the best you can with what you have. And so it's really like planning ahead, looking at the schedule as a whole. Like, yes, you want to be present in the moment, but at the same time, you better know what the next 14 days look like and when you can get your stresses in, right? Like it's always weighing risk reward. What's the highest reward, lowest risk thing that we can do on this day that's going to set us up for success 3 days down the line or 3 weeks down the line, right? So it's really like getting a grasp and diving deep in with the schedule and looking at what your opportunities are for an unload week or what your opportunities are for a building week, right? And so it's really like locking in on the schedule, having great people around you to bounce ideas with and be like, okay, I see this is option A, this is option B. Let's talk through pros and cons of option A and option B, and really just vetting it out with other minds and other professions to try and come up with the best decision, because there is no optimal right decision. It's never clear cut. It's just like, all right, this seems the lowest risk and highest reward. Let's roll this way.
Yeah. And do you feel like you have enough touch point with your team to take a step back and say, let's talk about this player for a second? I mean, do you have those moments or it's just tough on the road?
No, we do, because the beauty of it is that we have such a small staff. And so like we're breathing the same air all the time and only dealing with 10 or 11 players. So like we don't really have much of an excuse to not be on top of those things. Where like, again, working in the NFL where you have a roster of 53 plus 16, like you can't have the individualization at the level of depth that we have. It's not practical for the environment. But if we don't have that level of individualization in those conversations amongst our staff as four, we're not really meeting the standard. But again, like in the NFL, our performance staff was 26. Like you can't have those level of conversations with those things. So you just have to adapt to your environment, and the expectations are going to be different in each, you know what I mean? But yes, we have to have those conversations and step back. And if we're not doing a good enough job.
100% smaller staff. By the way, I went to see one WNBA game in my life. You know, it was the Liberty. Sorry about that. But I felt like that was the best basketball experience I've ever seen. I mean, I've been to a lot of NBA games, but they just make it fun. So I just
our games are really, really fun. Like I've obviously been to a lot of sporting events because that's my profession. And like, I think WNBA games are one of the more fun. It's quick. It's 2 hours. There's constant action. Like, I think it's a really, really fun, like underrated event that as a fan, I think it's a great experience.
I mean, everybody, my daughter loved it. My son loved it. My wife. I mean, whenever I bring my wife to a sport event, not really like that. But this time she was like, I actually liked it. So, I think
my friends and family like love it, and they didn't expect to. They're like, oh, women's basketball. Okay. But they love it. And even like last season, after the season was over, I went to a Golden Knights hockey game, and I was like, this feels slow moving compared to what I'm used to. And like hockey is fun. And I was like, it's, if you haven't been to a WNBA game, don't sleep on it. They're pretty fun.
It's very fun. Yeah. So second question I want to ask you is, from your perspective, right? What are some of the biggest differences in performance management between women's basketball and men's league? Because you obviously worked in the men's league, the NFL. What are the main differences that you've seen?
Yeah, I think we spoke a little bit to some of the things of like roster size, right? And like the expectation for individualization should be high in a smaller rostered team. So that's one of the big things. I think the other thing is like just understanding differences in sport culture. Like, I don't think that this is a men's versus women thing. I think this is a product of culture, but like football is a very militant, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. We'll follow whatever the program is. Like, that is the culture of football. That is not the culture of women's basketball. Our women are, have a lot of say in what they do. They have a lot of opinions. They have a lot of educated opinions. And I'm not saying that like the football males are not smart. They are brilliant human beings. But I'm saying like these women have had to go play overseas and have not had as many resources. So they've had to become very educated on how to take care of their body professionally. And so they have a lot of ideas on what works for them because they've had to figure it out to survive, to stay as a professional. So in this environment, like they have a lot of thoughts and a lot of opinions about what it works best for them. And they share those with you. And so they expect you to listen to them, to meet them in the middle, to offer you. It's like very much a collaborative relationship when it comes to medicine and when it comes to strength and conditioning in this sport, just because of the environment that they've been raised in. It's not a yes sir, yes ma'am culture. They've had to figure it out for themselves. And so like understanding those differences in sport culture, I don't know that that's a male versus female as much as like that's just the culture of the sport. And so like, again, someone coming in as like a dictator or like with a very militant approach is not going to fit in women's basketball because that's not how they respond. That's not the culture of the sport. So it's really just like coming into the environment, being curious about how this culture operates and then figuring out how you operate within that space. But if you come in guns blazing, all militant, which is the approach that football needs, because that's their culture, you won't do well here.
100%. Comes with the territory, right? If you want to make it in the NFL, you got pretty much have no choice, right? Now, where do you see the future of performance science in the WNBA heading over the next 5 to 10 years? There's a lot of advancement around, sensors, right, to track lactate, cortisol, hydration. You've got injury reduction models using AI. I mean, it's getting so advanced, right? You can monitor the menstrual cycles now. I mean, where do you see the future of performance science in WNBA?
Yeah, I think first, like our lowest hanging fruit are not necessarily in those high budget technology things. Like we're still having resources come into the league and there being equality in resources across the teams. Like not every team in the WNBA has their own facility. Some are still working out of rec centers, right? Like not every team can provide meals to the women. Not every team gets post-game meal at home, right? Like our lowest hanging fruit are not in technology and sensors. It's in basic human performance needs, which are hydration, nutrition, sleep, access to things, right? Like access to a facility, having your own locker room, having your own space where you can breathe and leave your stuff, right? And so my hope is obviously there's the CBA is getting renegotiated this year. There's a lot more resources and money coming into the league. So like, let's level the playing field across the league with the very basics of meals. We just got charter flights last year, right? Like these very basic things that are not anything to do with technology, right? Like, are we doing the basics extraordinarily well and resourced enough for the basics? And then I hope that in 3 years, that playing field is very level. And then we can, then it becomes higher yield to put money into technology, into AI, into biomarker tracking, into other things like that, right? Where male sport is certainly probably more than dabbling in those areas, right? But it's just like, as a director of the department, like if I have $100,000, am I going to buy an AMS or am I going to make sure that we have post-game meal? I'm probably going to make sure we have post-game meal, right? And so I think that hopefully we get there, right? And I do think that we will get there, but we just have to like level the playing field with the basics first.
I think it makes sense because sometimes you take things for granted, thinking, "Oh, everybody does that." Why it's not the case,
right?
So you got to get those baseline, up to a standard, and then you can think about something else, right?
Yeah.
So, but look, we're at the end of the podcast, but I want to thank you for your time today and great conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for listening. To access past episodes and other research, articles, and analysis of sports technology, please visit our website, theupside.us. Subscribe to the Upside newsletter and receive full access to our sports tech business letter and website. Royalty-free music is provided by ibaudio.com. The Upside podcast provides timely insights and interviews with global leaders in sports technology. Until next time, keep looking to the upside.